Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans and what is next for Zion regarding his future with this franchise. So just before I let you speak, I'll just let you know some facts. So the team confirmed that Zion will be ruled out of the play-in tournament and remains a doubt for the entire playoff should the Pelicans make the first round after the play-in. He's only featured 29 times for the Pelicans in this season and has been sidelined since January with a hamstring injury, which he later aggravated near the All-Star break while working towards a return. His prolonged absence is the latest setback in an injury-plagued NBA career. When on the court, Williamson has shown the immense talent that had the basketball world tipping him for greatness. He averaged 26.7 rebounds and 5 assists on 65% true shooting in this season, but like his maiden season, is unable to stay on the floor consistently. He's only featured in 114 games since being drafted first overall in 2019, with most of his appearances coming during the 2020 to 2021 season where he made 61 appearances. With so few games played and worries over the star's fitness, concerns have been raised on Williamson's future in the NBA. Last year, he penned a 5-year rookie max contract worth at least $193 million that put an end to speculation over his future with the organization and ensures he'll be on the books until at least the end of 2028/29 season. So, with all that being said, what should the Pelicans do with Zion Williamson, and what are your thoughts on his current situation, and do you have any concerns related to Zion?
Well, obviously, the main concerns with Zion is his health. Obviously, we know how good he is when he's playing, when he's on the court. It's just tough to see. Like, B.I. and Zion, they barely played together this season, and they've barely played together in their careers. Like, they have, but for the amount of games they should have, they haven't. And that's really tough to see because that's two All-NBA caliber players right there. And they just can't really string together games. And come playoff time, they need them out there. And they're in the play-in. He's doubtful for the play-in, like you said. So it's really tough. I think you'd run it back for one more year, hopefully more. But this next season, I think they really got to iron in and make Dyson Daniels that starting point guard. Really give him the keys with Zion, with B.I. Maybe there's a lack of shooting there, but I think it's better than getting dudes like Eric Bledsoe, who's that veteran presence. Like, you may as well unleash a guy like Dyson Daniels right now and get the most out of him than, an old Eric Bledsoe who he doesn't really bring too much at the moment in this current state of his career. He can't really shoot all too well, and he's still alright defensively, which is solid, but I don't really know how to feel about the New Orleans Pelicans. And also a guy like Jackson Hayes, I think he's on his last stint, but maybe just try to get the most out of him type thing. I'm not saying play him 30 minutes a night. I know he plays in and out. He's got his chances, but it's really tricky in New Orleans. Like, I think they have so much talent there. Everybody knows it with Trey Murphy, CJ, Zion, B.I. There's just so much going on. But I think, look, they were the first seed at one point this season. I think give them one more year. Hopefully a healthy Zion and a healthy B.I. Who knows? I really do think sky's the limit for this team.
I think you're definitely right about that. It poses the question. It makes you really wonder, did they make the right call back in 2019 drafting Zion first overall? I know, again, it's like a boom or bust kind of pick, and you'd regret not picking him had he had this success when he managed to stay healthy his whole career and ended up becoming like this perennial All-NBA guy. So I guess you kind of rue that decision, but then you look at what Ja Morant's done for the Grizzlies and how productive he's been. You almost wonder how good that could have turned out had Ja been in New Orleans leading that franchise and alongside a guy like Brandon Ingram, you know what I mean? That could have just been a match made in heaven. But at the end of the day, and I think, you know what, looking at how the Pelicans are structured, had they had Ja from the start, it had been guys like, let's say they had Trey Murphy there as well, Herb Jones. I feel like all the complementary pieces that they have, it's very similar to how the Grizzlies are. They're very young, so I think Ja could have really helped change the trajectory of that team to the same sort of ascension that the Grizzlies had as well. So, but going back to Zion, I guess yeah, it's one of those ones where I think his talent and what he's done when he's been on the court is too great to risk getting rid of him. And then if he does decide, or if he does end up moving on to another NBA team and he becomes this talent that we all anticipated, and he manages to stay healthy and he becomes an all-star again and an all-NBA caliber player, the Pelicans are going to be kicking themselves. So I think you got to run it back another time. I know Brandon Ingram's been really big as of late. He's had some big time performances this season, and you know, you still got guys like CJ McCollum in the organization, but I don't know, the Pelicans are a weird one for me. They're sort of all over the shop. They've got a bunch of veterans who probably aren't in their plans for the future long term, and I guess they probably brought them in with the anticipation that they would probably be playing deep into the playoffs. With that being considered, they probably thought that Zion would be part of that, and hence when he was on the court, they were the number one seed and looking really dangerous. So I think availability is the best ability.
They were giving Phoenix problems.
What was that?
They were giving Phoenix problems in the playoffs. Like, you would only... Yeah. It's so tough. Like,
exactly.
I wish it panned out.
I wish him the best. I want the best for Zion's career, but you know, a guy that big with that much pressure going onto his joints, especially considering he relies on his athleticism, that's never boded well for guys of that nature that have previously been in the NBA. Yeah. So, like I said, I wish him the best. I hope that his health does take a turn for the best, but unfortunately, yeah, it's just with the history and, you know, the limited games he's played since he's been in the league, it's one of those things that I don't know how much more patience the Pelicans will have with him, despite the fact they gave him that big contract. So, you know, give it one more chance, but, you know, you're going to have to start putting out the feelers for potential suitors. But then again, who would want him? Because if he's not able to be on the court, it's one of those things, what would you be willing to give up? You wouldn't want to give up too much of your assets to get a guy like Zion, despite the fact he's got this all-NBA and MVP caliber upside. But when you know that he's not going to be able to be on the court, then what use is that to get him into your team if you know that you're not going to be able to see him out and on the court in action? You know what I mean? So that's a tough one for the Pelicans. It's a tough position they're put in, but I'm sure they'll sort it out, and fingers crossed that Zion